Greetings, hello, and welcome everyone. There's a new update for Age of Mythology Retold. This is update version 17.30764. It's a mouthful of an update. Anyway, this update's mostly focused on multiplayer fixes, gameplay UI, controller changes, and a few balance updates as well. I'm going to go through the major points, and I'll put the patch notes in the description for you to check out each and everything. Is the desync issue finally fixed in AOM Retold? Let's go ahead and dive in and see what's changing in the game. So they're starting off with the stability and performance, and there's a lot of out-of-sync errors that can happen when certain actions occur in AOM Retold. And they're saying that they're fixing a lot of these. So when you use the Undermine God power, when a unit is stunned, when you change unit formations, wall placements, when you load into specific maps like Arena, out-of-sync issues with pathfinding while playing against an AI, players using different operating system versions. I think this is a good step. Unfortunately, I don't know if this is what is really causing the bulk of the out-of-sync issues. I have seen it happen quite a lot with using God powers in AOM Retold. It looks like they're only messing with one of them, which is the Undermine God power. So I'm not really sure exactly what causes them. I just do know it's real bad. A lot of people are complaining about it in comments. Regardless of platform, I see it quite a lot on PC. I know other people are seeing it on console as well. Some people claim it's like literally unplayable at the moment because of the out-of-sync issues. All I can say is let's just give it a little bit more time if you're still having these issues. The game's only been out for like 2 weeks and we've had 2 updates already. So I think they're pretty quick on addressing these issues, and they do know what's going on, by the way, as well with some of these. They're not completely oblivious to the desync issues. So I expect more out-of-sync issues to be fixed in the coming weeks, but that's what we have for this patch here for out-of-sync issues. There's also some updates to localize strings. So, like, I think what this means is I've heard people saying that the localization for other languages is real bad in AOM Retold, so I'm assuming that's what's fixing that. There's some adjustments to achievements where you can get progression now when you're offline in the game. I'm assuming that's for like skirmish and campaign. There's a few graphics issues that they fixed as well. This looks to be mostly for the PC players, particularly with ray tracing. Audio improvements throughout. There's a bunch of UI changes here. Some of them are really interesting on like how they even figured out how some of these UI issues. I don't really think a lot of them are a whole lot worthy to kind of go into. There's a couple of interesting ones. So multiplayer skirmish lobby settings now persist from your last hosted game. I think that that's pretty good if you're going to be creating a bunch of multiplayer skirmish lobbies. Then it says ranked and quick match choices now persist from the last time you queued. So for me, and I'm assuming for you as well, hence this change, is when I get out of one game and I want to get into the next, if I'm playing 2s or 3s, I have to like untoggle 1s and retoggle 3s every single time, and it's aggravating. So I think this will now keep those changes. That's pretty good. I still don't understand why the lobby has to disband and you have to re-invite everyone after the end of every game. That's not the end of the world, but nonetheless, I hope that they manage to fix that. Another one that I think is really cool, and I'm glad that they did this, there's now going to be an icon next to your gamer tag in multiplayer lobbies, and that's going to show the input mode that you're using. So if you're on a controller or mouse and keyboard, there should be a little icon now that'll be displayed in matchmaking. I like that a lot. I always am just curious, like how many people are playing on controller? Even when we played AoE 4, a few months ago, we saw that, I don't know, maybe I would say a fourth of everyone that we played against was on a controller, which is really impressive given on how there's no controller support for that game on PC. This game in AOM, there is controller support on PC. So I'm curious if I see, any sort of observation of people using controller more often. I think that was kind of cool. Moving on to hotkeys, there's some cool changes here in hotkeys. You can now pre-queue hotkeys. That's been added. I think that's interesting. Never had an Age game where you can pre-queue text, but I really like it in AOM Retold. Find and select myth unit hotkey has been added. I'm actually kind of surprised that wasn't there already. Let's see. There is a hotkey to select a hero, but the camera doesn't snap to the hero. That's been added. I think that's kind of good. They actually get into that a little bit more on, I don't know why that's actually not posted here as well, when they're changing the oracles for Atlanteans. Those are no longer selected when you want to select all of your heroes, by the way, which I think is good because you don't want that. Moving on to controller. Now, this is really important. I think this is one of the most important parts of this entire patch. What I've noticed over my time playing on controller is it's not good. Oh, well, I guess I shouldn't say it's not perfect. It's not. There are some issues, and I think controller players are at a disadvantage playing against mouse and keyboard, not due to the speed of micro or anything like that. There's just things that the game doesn't tell you, or actions you can't even do on controller that you can do on mouse and keyboard. I've done it, I've mentioned this in other videos, but quickly I'll go over like 2 or 3 big ones. One is you can't see the description of relics through Fog of War on a controller. That's not changed here, to my understanding, on these balance changes. It doesn't mention anything about that. So if you want to see the description of a relic on controller, you actually have to get visible line of sight. You have to have a unit next to the relic to see what the description is. You don't need to do that on PC. You just need to discover the relic, and then through Fog of War, it'll tell you the description. And I think that's huge because there are some really good relics, even particular to the Civ that you picked, that is important for you to get probably in the beginning of the game. And if you can't remember, or you don't have a teammate that can kind of tell you what the description of these relics are, you're at a major disadvantage there. Another one, too, is there's a button on your town center that can pull all captured livestock to your town center. You don't need to individually select each goat or pig or whatever to send it back to your town center. You can just click that button, all the livestock go home. That's not present on controller either, and I think that's more important that should be there on controller than on PC. Anyway, I digress. Let's go into the controller changes. They expanded the minimap inputs. They can now be performed while the controller RB button is held. I think that's so you can kind of like zoom real quick across the map. You can do that in like AoE 2 and AoE 4. The D-pad quick commands were added for the control groups menu. Improvements to quick find functionality. I think that's when you like press and hold a button and it'll take you quickly to a unit. Improvements to Y quick actions. So like that's if you pick a villager and you press Y, it'll tell you to build a house. But I think if you have the maximum amount of houses, it'll change to a farm. That might be what they're talking about here. I'm not quite sure. UI interactions not currently available will hide for the controller UI. I don't know what that means, but I guess that's good. There's vibration feedback for hold events and ongoing improvements to controller UI. Again, I don't know what that means. I think they're a little vague there, and I think this is a big area for them to improve upon in a future patch. Moving forward to gameplay fixes. This is kind of the bulk of everything. Some interesting changes. Researching secrets of the Titans before or after building a wonder no longer results in different cooldown cost and values. That's kind of wild that was there. This one's interesting. Units that can't be healed, the example is the Son of Osiris, can no longer progressively restore their hit points when garrisoned in a building. That's kind of interesting. This one was also broken. I saw this on Discord. I think this came by way of Reddit, actually. There was a bug with Zeus's favor gather rates was completely broken. If you got the golden apples effect, it was like generating incredibly more favor than what was originally intended. Like, I think it was something ridiculous, like 5 or 10 times more than the favor. And I think I really exploited this on accident in a video. It was titled like Epic Comeback 2v2. I was playing as Zeus and I ended up like building a wonder. And what ended up happening was, you generate you generate favor with a wonder. And I had so many villagers praying that I was dropping the lightning strike ability like twice a minute. It was insane. And so I think that was kind of what that was meant to stop. But nonetheless, I kind of knew that was happening, but I didn't know it was that bad. You know what I mean? There's also a few other things like bugs being fixed with enabling disabling units or patrolling. Land and naval units can now be selected in the same group. Fixed a bug where Colossus overlap when they're healing. I guess that's when they're like eating trees or gold mines or something. Caravans will now recalculate their carried resources when they're tasked to perform trading on another town center. I think that's pretty huge. And then lastly, the one I think it was kind of funny. The Meteor Roulette cheat now has its intended effect. There's some campaign balance changes, actually, which I think is quite interesting that they're changing the balance of campaign. There are improvements to AI, balance, and triggers for many campaign missions, minor visual polish adjustments, and they're saying that the missions that had included updates to this, they worded that kind of strange. Fall of the Trident, I'm not going to list all of these, but it looks like it's essentially every single mission. Same with New Atlantis and whatever the mythical battle god pack map is. I'm not sure what that means. All right, moving on to balance. Deathmatch, you get more resources. That's kind of cool. We're moving on to Greek Pantheon. These are, I guess I should preface this, that this isn't major changes that we've seen compared to like the last patch. The last patch was pretty big, but for this one, it seems like more smaller changes. They're going to start with Greeks. They're talking again about that formula with praying with all of the Greeks. They said the effect was already present, but they're just kind of reinforcing it. So if you have 5 villagers, there's a minus 4.6 total favor income compared to last time. And if you have 25 villagers praying, it's a minus 17.6%. So they kind of want to nerf like mass praying, which is kind of sad because I like doing that. So you can get kind of like mass centaurs or something. I think that's probably what they're trying to nerf here. The Lure God Power from Poseidon. I love this. It fixed a bug where it's unable to research granary upgrades. Now behaves exactly as if it were a granary. I didn't even know that it was supposed to do that, but I really welcome that change. I think that that's good. Minor Gods, they're actually buffing Cav for Poseidon. The Cav lifesteal technology from, is it Dionysus? It's 20%, now it's 30%. And then the Curse God Power, the total unit resource value converted has been reduced from 850 to 800. For Centaurs, they're nerfing them a little bit. The special attack bonus damage versus heroes has been reduced. It's been cut in half. Those things used to just smoke everything. And I think they still will, by the way. And their cost has been increased just a little bit from 12 favor to 14 favor. I don't think that's that big of a difference. But nonetheless, they want to nerf Centaurs just ever so slightly. One of my favorite units in the whole game. Okay, so for human units, this is really huge. They're reducing the training time for the first 3 Archaic Age heroes, depending on who you pick. So that's Jason, Ajax, and Theseus. Their train time was 15 seconds. Now it's 5 seconds. And their bonus versus myth units has been increased, and their hit points have been reduced just a little bit. I think what they want to do is have those out on the field quicker, because I think for a Pantheon standpoint, Greeks take the longest to get your heroes out. You know, with Egypt, you already have it with your Pharaoh. With Norse, you can train them pretty quickly. And then with Atlanteans, you can just kind of promote as well to pick up relics and all the rest. So I think that's what they want, is they want Greeks to be a little bit more competitive picking up relics. And that's why they're reducing the training time. Moving on to Egyptian gods now, starting with Ra, the winged dragon of Ra. Berry bushes are now gathered 25% faster. This means Ra villagers gather berries as fast as huntable animals. So if you want them berries with the side of them jeans, you want to go Ra. Absolutely. Moving on to Isis, the Flood of the Nile technology. I think that's where you get the free food forever. Correct me if I'm wrong. The cost has been increased. I don't know why they did this, from 5 favor to 8. I guess they wanted to delay you a little bit in age 1 from getting it. From Minor Gods, the healing rate for the Electrum Bullets technology has been decreased, been cut in half. The plus 15% Slinger damage has been removed. It's replaced with Slinger plus 1 Divine damage. And the cost has been increased as well by 50 gold and 5 favor. The Plague of the Serpents God power, I think that's the one where you get all the snakes. The hit points have been decreased quite a lot. The hack damage has been decreased, and the chase distance has been decreased as well. So they really want to nerf that. The Locust Swarm from Elizabeth Sobek. The Locust Swarm is now wider, making it possible to damage more units. So they want to buff that a little bit. The Monument to the Soldiers, that's that second monument available. They're actually increasing the cost from 75 food, 75 gold to 100 each. I guess they think that people are going that monument too quickly, maybe? Moving on to Norse. Converting the villagers to berserkers has been increased. It was just 30 gold. Now it's 20 food, 30 gold. And converting dwarves to berserkers is also the same. 20... Oh, I'm sorry. It was 20 food. Now it's 30 food, 10 gold. So they want to make it more expensive. I don't think Gus is going to like that when he hears about that. The Great Hunt. The maximum food created in the Archaic Age has been reduced from 800 to 600. And then Odin's Scouts. Those are the ravens that you get. The line of sight has been cut in half from 20 to 10. But it now also gains +4 line of sight per age up. So I think that's pretty good. For Loki, I think this is a big change. The conversion to berserkers is no longer free. Instead, the cost is reduced by 50%. Atlanteans. This is the one that's getting the most changes, actually. I think they still want to make Atlanteans competitive. In my opinion, I think Atlanteans... It must be a skill issue on my part. I play terrible as Atlanteans. I can't figure them out, even though they're, like, on paper, one of the easiest civs to play as. You don't have drop-off buildings. There's just a barracks and a counter-barracks, so on and so forth. Yet I'm terrible with them. And they're making them better a little bit, it seems like. The starting wood, you're now getting 250 instead of 200. For your major gods, starting with Gaia, your economic guild upgrades, that cost reduction, because I think you get a cost reduction there. It was 35%, now it's 40%. And then the economic guild also reduces building cost by 40% as well. It says it previously did it. That's kind of huge. The Gaia Lush, the maximum radius has been increased a little bit. For minor gods, the Carnivora god power, I like this god power a lot. Fixed an issue where it would kill ships instantly. The hack damage has been increased, and the pierce armor has been increased as well. The Prometheus, the Promethean units, not to be confused with the Prometheans in Halo Wars, their hit points have been decreased a little bit. But the tree thing that you can drop, you now get 2 dryads each time it's cast. And it says, nope, the first 2 casts are free. I think that's kind of cool. And then Poseidon's Secret, I think that's the one where you can improve your hero units for a cheaper cost. It says it now reduces the cost of cav units when you make them heroes as well, so that's good. This is kind of broken. The Heroic Renewal technology now gives plus 10% hit points to heroes. And then the Chaos God power has been increased, and its cooldown has been increased a little bit as well. So I think that they think that that's a little bit too good. The Spider Lair, they're completely reducing the cooldown by 30 seconds. That's a lot. And then the Implosion, that's the one where Cell comes back. That Age 4 God power. Units are now sucked in faster. That's going to get even more painful to deal with, so that's great. It says Atlantean heroes, the bonus damage versus myth units have been increased, and there's a bunch that they've changed here. It's kind of insane. So they're going to get even better against myth units. Oracle units, like I mentioned earlier, they're now longer found and selected when you're doing the find and select hero hotkeys, which I think is good. They're also reducing the cost of the economic guild building throughout. They said, but note that there's further cost reductions for Gaia. And then they're increasing the hit points of the manors as well from 500 all the way up to 800. Lastly, I think the last cool thing that they wanted to mention here, or I should mention in here, I should say, is UI mods are now treated as safe for multiplayer, including ranked. So there are some UI mods out there that I think like move the resources to the bottom left, how previous Age games have done it. And so I guess if you want to play ranked with that, you certainly can to your heart's content. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the patch for AOM Retold for today. A lot of changes in here, not a whole lot of major meta changes. In fact, it's really more like meta plays. But I think that the desync issues have really been, hopefully, on the path to being resolved once and for all. We'll see as time goes on. But nonetheless, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say on these changes. And we're uploading AOM Retold videos daily on the channel, so be sure to check that out. And we stream AOM Retold live every Monday. Be sure to check that out as well. Thank you all so much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you, James.